Hang on. There we go. Okay, now I'm working. I think they can hear you. Say something, Barker. No. I don't. Okay. There we go. All right, that should work now. I'm sorry, everybody. We try so hard here at Fistful of Dice World Headquarters, but sometimes we still have technical difficulties. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt. This is session 12 of Paladins, the finale, the epilogue, really. The finale, the climax was last time. Now we're sort of in the falling action. Can't hear Barker.
Do I need to make more sound checks?
Oh no, it's fixed now. Okay. It's fixed now. Everybody, we should be able to hear everybody. I got levels on everything. So
cool.
So last time we had our big sort of culmination of everything that was going on. The final confrontation with Calypso, with Falk. We ended the session with uncertainty, with fear, with sadness, with mourning, and in tonight's session, we're going to kind of play these characters off. We're going to see where everyone sort of ends up in the interim. And, I'm not generally a fan of everything sort of getting tied up in a nice little bow, but I think the things that we can see the culmination of, we will try to get to. And this session is going to be different than other ones I've run. I have very, very, very little prepped, just some basic ideas of things that I want to see as not only the game master of this campaign, but as a fan of this campaign and of watching these players. And so we're going to kind of jump around and see what everyone gets up to in the months following the battle at Warwick. I think we'll just skip intros because we'll have time for that after, and we'll just kind of jump right into it if everyone's cool with that. The volcano erupts. It spews ash and fire and pyroclastic material into the air. The volcano itself crumbles, half of it sort of slouching off into the ocean. The ocean itself hisses as the molten rock pours into it. And alongside this crumbling mountain, we see the installation built inside of it. This structure of steel melting, crumbling, shattering. The landing pad holding the drop ship tumbles into the water. We see escape vehicles jettisoning from lower hangars as the crew of the facility flees. The last thing we see is a metal placard still attached to a chunk of concrete wall that falls into the water and begins falling into the abyss. We see the metal placard that reads Project Halberd, and it disappears into the darkness of the ocean below. We cut to the Infernus fleet in orbit above this world. Several large capital ship type vessels, crewed by hundreds, if not thousands, each containing fighter craft and mecha. And alongside these capital ships, we see the Okami. A little battle damaged, a little worse for wear. There's some aquatic flora sort of hanging off of it, seaweed and stuff that got stuck on it as it was underwater. But it is still in one piece. And we see on the bridge of one of these Infernus ships, Pax, your uncle, who's standing there, hands clasped behind his back, looking down over the planet. And an officer nearby says, "My lord, weapons are primed, at your command." And he says, "Do it. Leave nothing behind." And the ships begin their bombardment of the planet, destroying anything that might remain. The Paladins, except for Matty, are brought on board this ship. You see that though it was once a Neo-Dominion craft, it has quickly been retrofitted and the sigils replaced with that of House Bastion, Infernus now being a sovereign state unto itself. The soldiers greet you, Pax, with salutes and bows, though some of them seem uncertain as to what to do as you renounced your throne. But as you enter the bridge, your uncle turns and says, "My lord, the battle is won. We are victorious."
Pax would look at him and he would nod and say, "This battle is won, but I'm afraid there's probably many more to come."
Indeed. The Neo-Dominion is not going to take our secession lightly, my lord, and I would recommend now that this battle is won that we prepare for reprisal from them.
Yeah. There's definitely much to be done back home, so turn the fleet around. Let's go home.
As you wish, my lord. And he would relay your orders to the crew. The engines would spin up, and the fleet would begin moving out. What are the rest of you doing as this is happening? Did anyone else come aboard with Pax?
Maybe if that was what was requested of us.
I don't think they would have requested your presence necessarily, but they absolutely would have requested Pax aboard the ship, as technically he's in charge of this fleet. But if the rest of you stay aboard the Okami, you would see the orbital bombardment occur from these ships. Just a few volleys from these particle cannons would just glass that area of the planet, leaving it completely desolate. And you all sort of watch as the almost mushroom cloud-esque sort of eruption that you can see from orbit. And you know down there that somewhere Warwick Station used to exist, and somewhere down there might be Matty, there might be Calypso, there might be Falk.
So before the fleet leaves, though, I would want to, at the very least, make sure everybody has arrangements before we dispute. Because I think in the last session, the first thing I did when I got into with the Yokami is dock with the ship and came up here to make sure that everything was bombarded away. So before we would leave, I would want to make sure everybody is cool. So I guess Pax would go back to the Yokami.
Hovering in his mecha outside the Okami, kind of watching the other Paladins on dock, watching all the ships kind of orbiting in orbit over this world that is so destroyed that this, like you mentioned, Matt, this mushroom cloud is so big that it hits the outer edges of the atmosphere and just kind of globes out, turning this whole world into this dark, dim snow globe of sorts. And Mora sends out a signal to Matty Jai, and sends out a signal to the Okami that basically says he's going to scout, and he begins flying into the ashen atmosphere of this place, always broadcasting that signal.
And it was Tulip's last act, I believe, to check on Matty, but sometime later. So I believe she was in the infirmary for this bit.
Then I think that remembering that, Mora would just kind of stay on the surface, broadcasting, and then keeping you posted, keeping you in the loop until you are ready to delve farther in if necessary.
There's a lot of interference, a lot of energy readings just haywire, heat, impossible to detect. But you still give it everything you've got, Mora. Likely almost falling asleep at the controls of your mecha as you search for signs of Matty. But there's nothing. It's a wasteland. The sea evaporated after the volley from the particle cannons above has begun filling in once more as the ocean closes in around this new crater where once stood a mighty volcano and Warwick. But there's nothing. There's just wreckage and melted rock. The last sort of glimpse that we get here, I think, is Tulip in the infirmary, hooked up to machines, injured, still alive. And Tulip, what's going through your head here as you're laying there?
She's realizing she's hooked. Despite spending little time in here, by sheer luck, she's familiar with the infirmary, having at least tucked away in here to have a private moment with her game system when everyone else was being a bit too serious. But now it is serious and quiet. Just the beeps of medical machinery, the absence of a guest, and yeah, I think she would stay that way until the moment she does go to Maddie's room, a little bit more healed, a little bit more able to take the walk. The first thing she does is check on her bunk to see her friend. And just like in the last episode, there would be no one there. She would probably pass out. She's running on like very low energy, but would come to again in the infirmary, a little more rested, but a little more aware of what they might have lost.
I would offer that on Matty Jai's bed, you would see his sketch pad open, and you would see every single one of us sort of standing together, sort of mid-action with like our mechs behind us, sort of standing together in very idealized drawings, but maybe even things about the mechs that might hint at or sort of be suggested by the improvements that were made by the molded mechs that he put on you.
Yeah, no. Okay. That's amazing. So yeah, I would say then, without retconning too much, she stepped into the room, into a dim light, and found that, and upon opening it, started to get emotional, and then she went down. But when she woke, and she doesn't quite know who did so, the book was beside her on her side table. And she'd be flipping through it. That would be the last scene we'd see of her for now.
We fade on that image of Tulip in her bunk flipping through Maddie's sketchbook, and against the black we see the words 3 months later. We find ourselves on Nova Locus, and this first scene is going to be in the governor's quarters. Anyone who wants to be there can be. I know, Aaron, this is just absolutely killing you that you can't be here. But anyone who wants to be in here with the governor can be. But we come in sort of mid-dialogue as he's saying, I can't tell you how sorry I am for what happened. I promise you that the man responsible has been dealt with. And he kind of like clicks, and on this monitor against the wall you see this footage of Ernst, that henchman that was kind of showing you around the place, and he's like on his knees handcuffed inside an airlock, and he's saying, Janice, please. His voice is all muffled. I was just trying to get some extra funds for Nova Locus for you, Janice. And you see Janice in his robe in the footage just like hit the airlock button. And Ernst goes out into the Nidus Nebula. Janice clicks off the monitor and says, good henchmen are hard to find nowadays. It's a damn shame what happened to Ernst. But you reap what you sow. Now what can I do to make this right?
He's one of your people, right, Ernst?
He was. Yeah.
And you're responsible for what your people fail to do and what your people do.
Ultimately, it is my responsibility, yes, which is why I would like the opportunity to make it right by you and yours.
Who else is in the room?
I'd say Pax is in the room.
Then that's Mora kind of gives a side glance to Pax.
And Pax would say, I'm working on a project. Something big. And I could use more hands. And since you owe us a debt, I think maybe you'd be interested in working into that fold.
He walks over to this very soap opera-esque wet bar, this big extravagant sort of situation, and pours himself a drink, and then would kind of look at the two of you having that like, you want anything? As he's mixing himself a drink.
Pax
He says,
said no.
a business venture and a chance to prove myself loyal in the same instance. I'd say that's about as good of an offer as I'm going to get. I won't even bother haggling with you. Send the papers over to my people, and we'll sort out the details.
Pax would look at Mora to give him a chance to add anything in.
One more thing, Mora says in a like Detective Columbo sort of way, and then, well, let me tell you about it. And he would trail off if the scene is about to end, or if someone else wanted to chime in, he would like type something into his data pad and like swipe it over.
Janice would pull it up on that same monitor. What does he see?
He sees a Paladin suit, expanded, upgraded, bigger, better, more powerful, but whose rockets have been exchanged with 3D printers, and whose machine guns exchanged with massive soldering irons. And these construction mecha, like never before seen in this space. He sees, when he swipes over, a new branch off of Nova Locus, a brand new station that is all beds, all facilities, all like at one massive interstellar refugee camp. And he says, this is a chance to build something new, is what Mora says.
Oh, can't hear you, Matt.
Hey, may I cut in just with a blueprint image that expands out from that mecha, even though I'm not in the room? You see growing from this construction mecha a expansion into a much larger 3D blueprint, and the letters over top of this massive mobile fortress is the letters reading Gran Gale, GRAN space GAYLE. And you see in this like kind of moving 3-dimensional blueprint detaching from the head of this kind of swan shaped, almost raptor-esque angular ship. The head is the Okami itself. The cockpit bridge is the Okami, and it detaches. And then you see that this thing is not just built for battle, but also for habitat. The detachable hold at its belly contains these transparent glass biodomes with preserved flora and fauna from planets recently devastated by these galactic wars, and archival supercomputers dedicated to a truthful account of the Lodestar diaspora. And it just expands with more information and potential. And it is a beacon of growth and hope that complements what Mora presented in a quipster kind of way.
And Mora will add to that. Actually, I mean, Tulip, are you on the other line of like a radio or something that I could radio you?
I kind of wanted to show up in the construction phase of things.
Okay,
if
cool.
we get there.
All right. Well, then Mora just has this moment where he realizes that that his people are better than Janice's people.
Janice watches these blueprints kind of scroll up, and he doesn't react. His face is just entirely placid as he sits there like sipping this drink. And then as the like blueprints and holograms sort of fade away, he sinks into that conversation pit that is ringed with ferns and plants of all kinds. And as he sits, Raven just goes "Caw, caw," and lands on his shoulder, and he gives it a little drink. And then he says, I'm not typically in the business of refugees, cruisers that don't have guns on them. But this is a worthy pursuit. And if we're going to be in business together, well, I want to do it on your terms. Consider my resources and people at your disposal.
Matt B, I messaged you in Zoom. Do you have plans for Warhawk's ruined chassis?
I thought it was captured with the other chassis.
We drug it back, I believe, what was left.
Yeah. I trust your recall more than mine.
So there would be the rattle of the big port window in this room behind where Janice is sitting, and you just see the Warhawk mech with all of the weaponry kind of taken off, and those platforms to be mounted with the printers and things just burning just outside the window. And then through the comms it would say, "To get you started." And it kind of burns over and lands outside of this big palatial room. It doesn't look like it's in perfect repair because we didn't have the schematics aboard the Okami for that. But reattaching the leg and reattaching the pieces that were melted off or slung off to be put onto our other mecha, it's just this wonderful frame built like we saw earlier when Matty was futzing up all of their joints and joinery, but this one's actually more or less operational. And when the chest kind of opens or the head opens and Zasha comes out, she just gives a like little salute and hits the jetpack to back around towards the hangar.
What do you call them? These labor mecha. Gotta have a name, right?
Good question, Matt.
I think there is like a cut. There is a flashback of Tulip going through Mattie's sketch pad, and there is an inscription that just reads, probably it's the last thing he probably wrote, and it's Isaiah 2:4, and you have no idea what that is, and you have to like go through some major data to find out this like ancient people before coming to this place, like pre-colony ship text of the Bible, and you go through there. Only Matty knows about it because he grew up around like rich people and books and stuff like that. And you turn to and you find it, and you find the passage, and it says, "He shall judge between the nations and shall arbitrate for many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore."
Then we do like the wraparound Avengers style where it shows the blueprints for plowshares being displayed, and it's like all the specs actually being built and printed.
Yeah, all the weapons becoming tools, the armor becoming cargo space, all of that. Yep. Janice goes, plowshares. Well, it's your project. Where do we start? I think we'll cut from there to another scene. I want to go to Zasha here. Zasha, what would you be doing that would bring you to the corridors of Nova Locus? Where would you be going? What would you be looking for?
We would cut back to the market and Zasha is wearing her space suit with no helmet. And at this point, regular spacesuits in our day and age, they're like a beach ball, very difficult to move in. But we all know the anime style, almost skin tight spacesuit works perfectly. So we go that route. She's walking with her hair back in a ponytail instead of the wild mop that it normally is, of all different shades and colors. The roots are starting to show a little bit of color degradation where she has not had it laser etched into her scalp to do different colors. But she's carrying the empty crystal that she had the last time she was here. And she is aimlessly kind of looking through the market, trying to find the vendor who offered so long ago to take this off of her hands in exchange for money.
And it's extremely wild how same page in it we are right now, JP. That's what I have on my notes. You are looking for this vendor, this strange hooded and cloaked person who offered to buy that data crystal, and having trouble finding them. And just as you're about to sort of give up and maybe I'll try tomorrow, you turn and there they are. And they say, "Have you reconsidered?"
She actually has it with the necklace part wrapped around her palm and the data crystal hanging where she can hold it almost like she's saying stop, but the crystal hangs between her fingers. And she says, "I need munitions."
I cannot help you there, but I can give you money in exchange for that item, with which you can procure whatever you need. Very few things you can't find here for the right price on Nova Locus.
Credits work fine. And she pulls it off from this tangled mess between her fingers. And the camera kind of lingers on the steel chain as it goes over the little knuckles of this spacesuit until finally the last little bit pops off. And she hands it over, the whole thing.
The vendor takes it gingerly out of your hands, and we cut briefly and see Saxifrage laying there on the deck, pulling this crystal off and pressing it into your chest. The vendor says, "You no longer have need of this."
There's a long pause, a considerate kind of quiet, where just the people milling about are all that you can really hear. And she says, "No, I don't think that we do. But I don't think that we need a lot of things that we did not a long time ago. What's happening and what's already happened to us, it's not something you can put the cork back on. I don't think we have any need of this anymore, no."
Ridding yourself of a ghost. She looks at the crystal. The funds will be transferred. You find me if you ever have need of any more of these.
She nods. And when she turns and starts to walk away and she pulls up her data pad to look at the transfer, she stops and kind of straightens. And she turns back as they're departing, and she kind of cries out, "You know, ghosts are more like memories, really. Very hard to get rid of unless you wait long enough." And then she just kind of wordlessly turns, like shaking her head. She was caught up in this moment where she just had to comment. She gives a little wave with the data pad over her shoulder and walks away.
We then find ourselves inside the chop house. There is debris and scrap everywhere. Just a constant shower of sparks from welders. Tulip, this is your first time coming back into the chop house since you've come back to Nova Locus, and I actually imagine that you may have been putting it off coming back here. Describe to me what it looks like as you come in. What's going through your mind, and who else is with you as well?
I think her first time back, Tulip would have gone by herself just initially. Taking that kind of Akira-esque Nova Locus bike the same way she did, and kind of hesitantly approaching the same way she did before, creaking the door open of this warehouse, but older. Her hair's cut extremely short. She's dyed it like kind of like a bright neon pink, and her outfit is a bit more civilian than it had been for the last long while. And as the door creaks open, she is met with is it the same amount of noise? Does she return to the same place essentially?
Yeah, it's like nothing has changed. It's just clamor of hammers and tools and chains rattling and things being hauled up off the floor. And you would even spot that same scraggly looking kid that helped you out last time. Tanner was his name. You
Right.
spot him kind of hip deep inside the innards of the remains of like a starfighter type craft, and he's just hauling shit out of this and tossing it to the side to be used for something else.
She's wheeling that electro car in and tries to go unnoticed. And when he pokes his head out of the starfighter, looks up and says, I was looking for a tune-up. I hear this is the best place on Nova Locus.
Hey, Nan Jr., you came back.
I found my ship.
It was where she left it then.
It was.
Well, she left very specific instructions for you. So I'm glad I don't have to worry about it anymore. He's kind of wiping the engine grease off of his hands with a dirty rag that is doing little more than just smearing it around.
And she looks around. Some wailing of technology is going on. Old machinery. There's like panels of the walls of this warehouse just missing, letting in light from the colony. There's cobwebs at the upper levels and that sort of thing. And she says, well, I'm glad to have that off my shoulders. And she says, yeah, well, about that. Listen, can I take you out for a drink? I have something of an idea. And
He kind of like looks at the clock and says, sure.
You know what? She pauses for a moment. As long as you won't lose too much labor, a drink on me for everybody. I'd like to talk to you all. And she tries to corral them into a sort of gathering. At least the ones old enough to have a beverage, but it's an anime pizza party then. You know,
Anime pizza party for sure. Yeah. The
I think we're all like of age now because we were close before, right?
Yeah, and like also it's like space, so like
It's space.
Who
It's space.
cares?
It's space.
Like whatever, you're
Yeah.
already in space. But there are a few kids who are pretty young that are maybe drinking, soda or
And
whatever.
she says, "Hey, not you!" Like grabs him by the,
Yeah.
the top of his hat, and takes them out and tries to give them a spiel about possibly doing something bigger and being a part of the construction of the Grand Gale, as she starts to explain an idea for something, and listen to stories from like in a montage kind of sequence, listening to stories from the youngest among them, kind of hearing their different tales, because a lot of these are from planets, moons, and colonies that we are trying to help now. Refugees that came together and stuck together in this workshop. So she is taking in their experiences and asking them for help on how to help. And we see that process sort of manifest, and then cut to a small charming scene where she starts to kind of take on the role of the engineer, a la Matty. And she is her butt's like sticking out of like an opening in what is just like a giant like rocket or something, and she's working away in there, and you see these her goggles, her signature goggles, just kind of go flying through the air and just kind of rattle off, and then they hop, and then they raise, and you see one of the hedgehogs just underneath the goggles, having stolen them from Tulip. And she comes out all puffy faced, running after the hedgehog, and as she does, she bumps right into Tanner, and they have that like blush face, awkward first romance anime moment, as she kind of like sits as she's still in that moment, and then like scrambles back to work, and he does the same. Like they both turn immediately away from each other and start working away. And that's kind of where I'll leave it, just kind of in the innocence of working on this project and building something major with these people. I didn't have too much in mind beyond that until we find out what else is going on.
Yeah, and I think we kind of leave that scene with a final cutaway as the sound of this project, of the clamor of work fades. We kind of zoom in on, there's like a little it's like a water keg. There's like a little like drink station, and like there's little snacks and stuff, little like break area over in the corner. And there's a framed photo of Nan there that has been up there. And the camera kind of zooms in on this photo of Nan, and we see that it's a photo of her with a little Tulip, and they're like working on something together, being cute, laughing. And we see next to the photo, there's a little, like a dingy little glass with water in it, and there's a tulip just kind of sitting in that glass, blooming in the gray confines of Nova Locus.
I love that, Matt. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's cut to Mora. What is Mora up to? What is Mora doing? What is Mora working on?
You know what? I wasn't too sure. There was a part of me that thought Mora would be like checking on all the people in Tulip's shop and just kind of like being Tulip's like assistant, or like maybe even helping with the Mecha. But you know what? That's not what happened. And I'm not sure that Zasha sees Mora in the markets. They're making their sales, accomplishing their objectives. I think that Mora is in the cockpit of his mecha, just kind of like floating out in space and kind of examining the future, looking at the Okami and looking at Nova Locus and seeing like the digital readout of where everything will be when it's built, right? Like kind of like this animated heads-up display of where everything is, and working alongside Janice's people and at the order of Tulip Cho of kind of like what phases we're in and what the next steps are in this construction project. But I think Mora spent a lot of time in the cockpit of his mecha, in just hovering in space. I think that it's been just a strange 3 months, which has come after a strange month. If that, time is so weird. Was it like a week this whole thing occurred in? Maybe.
Listen, I have no idea.
Who cares?
It's approximately a season of television.
Yeah.
It's a season,
like it
We
may have been
binged
a
it.
season of 24 where all of this took place in like 24 hours. I have no idea. Time is so wonky in the real world.
Right.
So
Nice.
it was either 10 minutes or like 3 months. I'm not sure.
And so I think that that's what he's doing. He's just kind of like undergoing some operations. His story is kind of faded. He now understands where he started and those places where he went wrong, and those places where he went right, and how the best thing about this mission has been discovering new people that would teach him new things, right? His greatest failing was in assuming that he had the knowledge that he needed. You never have the knowledge that you need, ever, because there's always another mountain that's a little bit taller. There's always a horizon after the horizon. There's always something more that we can learn. And so he's reading a manual. That's what he's doing. He's reading some sort of like construction manual, because he doesn't want to be a squad leader anymore. He wants to do this forever. And the hedgehog, the blue glowing hedgehog, is kind of sitting on his shoulder, reading this thing with him. And he's got this wooden pipe sticking out of his teeth. He's graduated to the wooden pipe phase of his existence.
Did you say you were inside the station, or were you in your mech cockpit reading this?
What do you think? Am I inside the mech cockpit in the station? I could do both.
So
maybe
maybe that's the case. You're sort of in the hangar. Your legs are kind of hanging out of the cockpit.
I just docked from being out in space, and I've spent the last 10 minutes just kind of chilling in the mecha while reading this book on 3D printing. How to
Janice.
build massive space stations for idiots.
For dummies. Yeah. Janice comes by, and he kind of leans into the cockpit of your mech, and he has like this flask, and he takes a swig and kind of offers it to you, and then goes, "Wait, how old are you?"
The flask has been exchanged a few times. So Mora doesn't even look. Mora grasps the flask, takes a drink. What is it this time?
It's like the same sort of like engine swill that just tastes like rubbing alcohol.
He notices that it's starting, the acquired taste is, he's starting to acquire it. It's starting to become that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He breathes a little fire.
Yeah.
And then swallows it. The question catches Mora off guard. And he starts counting. Matt, am I 18? Am I 19 or something? How old is this? Is weird. We're all little babies.
Yeah, when I was like, buy them all a drink.
You were the oldest.
I was like,
believe.
wait.
Yeah.
We got Euro rules about drinking up in Nova Locus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, as you're sort of sitting there trying to figure out how old you are, Janice says, "It's not important. Project's coming along. You and Tulip work well together. You make a good team."
I suppose we do. I think a lot of that has to do more with Tulip than myself.
You know, I didn't send that genetic data. Ernst did. But we did intercept that message, and I got to look at what he sent. You and Tulip have nearly identical DNA. Did you know that?
Mora tries to play it off like, oh, wow, isn't that interesting?
You don't have to tell me if you don't want to.
Tell you what, he blows some smoke directly into the air purifier siphon, and it's just like, and it comes right out the top, this like perfect steam, this like vapor.
He says, there's a lot of surprises to be had with you lot. Everything from those nodules, those jacks at the back of your neck, what you're capable of inside these suits. And this plan of yours, this project, goes beyond anything I've ever attempted. I'm in my twilight years, and this is still probably the best thing I'll ever do. The fact that you're a copy, that doesn't factor into any of that.
We're all copies of copies in some way. We're all little pieces picked up along the way. He looks around at this place and he says, and there are worse legacies to leave, especially beep, 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 beep. You see it on the HUD, all the progress being made, all the future progress to be made. You're a part of that too. I mean, wait, hold on, did you come here for a counseling session?
No, I just been meaning to talk to you about the clone thing, and the curiosity got the better of me, I guess. I don't do a whole lot on here. I mostly just kind of wander around and talk to people.
What are you thinking about the clone thing?
It doesn't bother me. I know a few people that would get rustled over it, but the thing is, like you said, we're all copies of something. He kind of like king, like wraps his knuckles on the cockpit and says, "Stay safe out there, and don't smoke in here. Can't do that." And he wanders off.
Barker, may I say something? Are you good? Okay.
I'm set.
I think the only other scene I had in mind, again, until I know what's going on with my best friend, she would, I think it'd be outdoors, on Infernus for a moment, and it is a very windy but warm day with a bright, kind of inspiring but also oppressive sun. It's showing every single detail on the Paladin reign, the full height of the Mecha. Tulip, at her short height, is standing, if it's okay, John, next to Pax, and she says, well, it'll do better in your hands than mine. Guess that was my last flight. Glad I did it with all of you. Make sure it doesn't end up in the wrong hands.
I think Pax would smile and say, I don't think either of us are done fighting just yet. Not all fights have to be violent. And I think
You
what
got
you
that
and Mora
right.
are doing is good.
I've been growing into that captain chair, easing into the cushion.
I think we were all told when we were in training that we needed to wait for a leader, but in a way, I think we all kind of grew up to be our own leaders in a way. Follow our own
That-
path.
She smiles at that and says, "Yeah, we did, didn't we? Thank you for being one of the good ones. From what everyone's been telling me, we need a lot more of you." And you would know by now, just meta, that that last synchronization with the Guy system did in fact destroy her pilot jack entirely.
Pax
And
would nod, and he would tell you, I don't think the world needs any more of me, specifically. But I think we need a lot more of you.
And she says, "Come on, the food's gonna get cold." And she turns to run towards probably a very raucous Infernus style feast, which is probably going on not that far away from where they were observing the Mecha. And that, I just wanted to add that.
And I think Zasha, you wanted to have a scene with Pax as well.
Yeah. So in the last start over. So we see Zasha is working and the camera's pretty close to her. She's wearing headphones. And through the headphones you hear, the music just kind of whispering out. And she's cranking a wrench on some piece of her mech in the hangar of the Okami. And when the camera gets close to the back of her head and swivels around to the other side, it's her in her spacesuit, floating in the dark, looking out the window at that kaiju so long ago. And when the camera swivels back around to the other side of whatever she's working on the mech, it's her with the headphones on. And she throws the wrench down into the bag and sees there's grease on her hand. And it does the same thing where it goes around and there's blood on both hands after killing the people in the hallways. And she reaches up and wipes the grease on her shirt. And there's that 1,000-yard look when she finally shows her eyes to the camera. Like she's not really in this moment. She's in 100 other moments that have happened already, stuck there every waking moment. And the camera finally dollies back and we see her mech, Avalanche, the two of them, Paladin, Neon. And it's got this is for a very select few of you that know what Sandrock's poncho looks like from Gundam Wing, made of kaiju leather from the kaiju that we killed right outside of Nova Locust. I'm giving myself a module for story reasons, but she has finished attaching this orbital buster cannon to this mecha. And for the first time in the whole series, the mech looks pristine, like put together. Nothing is fizzing and futzing, nothing is hanging and catching, nothing is out of place. Everything looks put back to military precision. And she has this long moment where she's looking at it. And those little scenes are interspersed where she's thinking about that kaiju. She's thinking about that warning from Calypso. She's thinking about plowshares and these moments that she shared with everyone on the Okami in the past month or 2 or 3, where they're talking about leaving the life behind, no longer being a commander, no longer fighting, putting up their swords. And then there's just that sound. That sound that went off when the EMP hit everyone. That roar in the black, inky void of space. And then Pax's hand kind of touches her shoulder. This is the last day that she has said that she's going to be with the Okami. She's not sure where she's going to go, but she can't put up her sword. A shield doesn't work alone. And she kind of starts and finally pulls off the headphones that are deafeningly loud when she pulls them away from her skull. Not like she's listening to the music, but she's trying to drown everything out. She pulls it down and they cut off. Pax. Well, how are things? How are your plans going?
And Pax would smile at that and say, well, there's a speech that's about to be given soon. President has been chosen. Technically, I had part of another controversy. Apparently, you can write in any name into these slips, and a lot of people wrote my name in. I won by a landslide, even though I wasn't trying to get elected. But the new guy's a good guy. He's a good person. And even though I wormed my way out of being president, apparently he does have the right to choose who is going to be his cabinet members. So apparently I have to do that.
You should be involved. She kind of laughs as she says it and waves her hand. It seems like they're basically requesting you know?
Yeah, with the way my uncle talks, if I turn this down, they will 100% find another way for me to get involved.
She laughs.
And he would look at you meaningfully and say, I know I'm not cut out to lead these people, but I do. Do you want to get a drink? Do you want to watch the speech with me?
She kind of smacks the tool that she has in her hand against her palm, and she says, I would love a drink, but first I feel like I have to say, just because you do not see it does not mean it isn't there. You are cut out to lead your people. But if you don't want to, you shouldn't. A big difference there.
I think it's less that I have the capabilities. I have the knowledge. I have the know-how. I was raised by my family to be a leader, and the military didn't do much more than emphasize that. But I think what this place needs is less murder and more hope. And I'm just not the guy for that.
She turns and looks at the newly outfitted Avalanche with the munitions that she's bought and bartered and traded. And she says, hope and peace are fantastic, but they're not easy to win.
That is true.
And, she kind of talks and walks. She throws this tool and it sticks to one of the magnetic boards. And she says, hearing the commander, Mora and Matty put up their time as pilots, I'm not even jealous. It would be like saying I'm giving up air. I don't know that there's very much left if you took that away. I don't think that I could lead a people either. I don't think that I was born for that kind of engagement. And she kind of nods at picking just the right word for what she intended.
And as you guys kind of find a seat at the bar, he would kind of just like look at his hands and say, yeah, I mean, peace is a nice thing, but when I look at my hands, I never actually see what pigment they are. I don't see my skin, I don't see my flesh, I just see blood. I just see all the people that I've killed, all the things that I've done to get vengeance, to get justice, to whatever reason there is to take somebody's life. And I don't even remember everyone's name that I murdered. So many people I killed and I have no idea who they were. I have no idea if they had a family. I have no idea what their ideology was. Nothing. How many people were in that facility that I glassed? I remember there was this one guy I actually gave my card to. He wasn't even down for what they were doing. He was against what they were doing, and we melted him with lava in the middle of the ocean.
She's kind of darkly nodding with you.
And I think somebody with my hands can't lead people to a better future, because all I know how to do is do what my hands are meant to do. Kill, destroy, rip things apart. But there is a place for people like me. And he would look at you and he would say, people like us. The battles aren't over yet. There's a new storm brewing. There are more battles being waged. And although I don't think I can lead these people to peace, or to whatever peace looks like that I can't even imagine, I think I can 100% defend whatever they're trying to create. I think if anybody comes here and tries to take away what these people have, I will bloody my hands even more to make sure they keep it. I will rip and tear and destroy anyone who tries to get in their way. And I think I could use somebody who has my hands. Someone who can fight with me, who knows what it means. I could use someone to have my back.
There's a moment when Pax is talking and he says, no peace. And it links up exactly with what the president is saying on the screen. No peace for the first time. And she kind of looks at the president and then looks back at Pax as Pax finishes. And she says, everything that I did from the moment that we were attacked until the moment that we glassed the planet, I did For you all. For Tulip, Mora, even Matty. There's something special about us, not just our skills or our training, not just the Geist. Something else, like fate handpicked us to be put in the way of all this blood, and bone, bullets, and gore. She says, there hasn't been a day that I have not thought about that thing, that void maw that we fought. Each one of the things that it threw out at us could... And she kind of stops. All of the terror and horror stories that we shared, what happens when those things are everywhere? She throws back the last of her drink and sets it down noisily so the glass kind of rattles back and forth. And she says, if you promise me right here, bam, she hits her finger on the desk or on the tabletop at the bar. If you promise me that no matter who is warring with who, they are our priority, then I agree. I will come with you. I will shed blood so others don't have to. But I fight for humanity first, I think. No person has given me those kinds of nightmares.
And he would smile. And your words of I fight for humanity first would ring with the motto of his family, the people first. And he would smile and say, that's all the bastions are. The people always come before everything else.
The bartender droid fills our glasses.
Yeah, I imagine the bartender comes over and just kind of winks at Pax and is just like, this is on the house. And just leaves. And you would hear over the comms as the president is going on, and he would say, those who eat, those who work, eat. That is the words that have been on every single entrance to every single station in our entire system. Everybody knows those words. If you are a lick, it is in our souls, it is in our hearts, it is who we are as people. But who feeds us? Who controls the food? Because if we work and we eat, the person who controls the food is the person who has control over us. What the Bastions have done for us is they have given the means to feed to us. Now we get to decide which of us eats and which of us don't. We get to decide for ourselves if we eat. There's no one holding the power but us. And as you has elected me, I'm not here to tell you that I have control over the food now. We all do. This election, this position is not a replacement for the sovereignty that we once were ruled by. This is now our system. It belongs to all of us. My position, the person who feeds me, is you. All of you. And my job is to work to make sure that I'm fed. And so we as licks need to work extra hard. We need to work harder than we've ever done before, because what we're working for is not just some asteroids. We're not just out here trying to make sure that our kids is fed. We're out here making sure that all of us is fed. And I think that's a worthy goal. And I think that's something we can all look forward to. So I don't think that when people come knocking on our door, telling us that we need to get fed by them again, that we turn toward them with guns. I think we defend what's ours, but we let them know we're also here for peace. We don't want to take food from other people just to make sure we can eat. Like I said, those who work, eat, and now we all have the means to feed each other. And Pax would look at Zasha and say, I actually have a stop that we need to make. Like, we need to go to the Dominion directly. I've already set up a meeting. Have a conversation with those leaders. They may want all-out war, but like I said, my hands aren't the cleanest. So I'll leave it to the president to say these pretty words while I do what needs to be done. But I'm glad you got my back.
Zasha kind of chuckles and holds up her glass when you say, got your back, and says, to the bastions. Clink.
To the bastions.
And on the screen, the president has finished his speech and people are doing wild applause and screams, and people in the bar are kind of chuckling and happy too. And all of it kind of dims and dims and quiets and quiets. And Zasha looks at her reflection in the glass, and there's still that noise in the darkness.
We continue closing in on this TV screen, and as we push through it, it becomes static, blurred images. Matty, tell us where we are and what we see.
We are in a well, first, where we are is we are outside of a comet that is hurling through space. It's about a 12-mile comet. And on that comet, there is a structure that is impossibly built on top of it. The trail of vapor and particles streaming off of it like a tail, like the tail of a dragon. And we kind of zoom into this very like shiny chrome structure. And in there we see Matty, who looks a little bit different, is still his sort of large, chubby self. His hair has, there are parts of his hair, there are a couple of curls in his hair that are white. And he is wearing sort of a long coat, as well as these gloves on his hands. And he is kind of standing at a like a mobile workstation desk. It's kind of on this platform that's kind of floating around, and he's kind of like playing with some buttons and some dials and some keys. As he's doing so, he's kind of like looking around at these different screens that are inside of this sort of like, I guess it's like we'll say it's like a domed structure. And so there's just all these things happening. We see that, if I may offer, we see that we see like a news headline of like a Neo-Dominion military response to the Infernus out colonies. So we see like some fires and some at some station. We see a Terran collective terrorist action at a Neo-Dominion colony. We see a fight between several factions kind of going against this Aeon primacy incursion. And there even might be lingering things about like void maw sighting in this sector. And he's kind of like floating around on his little podium, and he is saying, "It's getting worse. I knew it would get worse." All right. Falk, what do you have? And we see kind of coming from the shadows. At first, there are just these shining eyes, and then they step into the shadow, and we just see Falk or Mora, but maybe a little bit different. Maybe also with like streaks of white in his hair, with like a new and upgraded suit of some kind, probably smoking, and he says, "Yes, the fighting is getting bad. They're actually slowly encroaching on the nebula in which Nova Locus is at. It should be. We expect a catastrophic military event in, anywhere from a week to months." Calypso. And sort of stepping out of the shadows, we see Calypso, also with streaks of white in her hair, also wearing this sort of, they're all wearing some kind of like purple uniform, let's say. And he's saying, "Calypso, could you please analyze that data, double check it?" And you see that her eyes kind of like glow for a second. And she is, and then she kind of like looks back and she says, "That was generous." All right. He turns to like another bit of like work on business on his podium, and he's like swipes up and casts it to the screens towards him, and he sees like, and we see all of the screens of our of his comrades, his former comrades from about a year ago at this point, maybe more, all doing different things. We see Mora kind of being an administrator over on the some kind of video feed of Mora taking on like an administrative role, some kind of like sash or something on Nova Locus. We see Tulip like fully just like in charge of like what's happening at the Plowshares facility. We see Pax. We see Pax sort of. We see like an assassination attempt on Pax, in which he pulls out a gun and just shoots the assassin like right in the head from like he snipes the assassin before the assassin snipes him. And we see Zasha like with her mech like dragging like a void maw like corpse, like a baby void maw corpse behind her. And he says, I wanted to spare them this. I wanted to give them peace. Send the signal. And then I think at some point, wherever you all are, past those events that we've just seen, you would begin to get Matty Jai's signal. Something, a long, deep buried thing that you gave up on a year or so ago, after looking through the desolation of Warwick Station. The question would be, I guess, like, who would answer that?
I don't think I would answer, but I think my scene with it would be she would be working in this wide open kind of almost cavernous facility on the Grand Gale. And she would be coming down a catwalk ladder and surrounded by a family of hedgehogs. I'm guessing this is Gen 2. They're all around her feet, and she reaches down to like scruff some of their heads. And in this echo, in the easy echo of this like massive facility, you just hear like this almost 8-bit noise coming from like her quarters, which is like a distant like loft that just hangs from the ceiling. And it is coming from that game system she always played on the top bunk. She has retrofitted into a sort of device to constantly sequence for Mattie's signal, no matter the amount of time it's always plugged in. And that 8-bit ring just like plays out over the warehouse, and she pokes her head up and her eyes are wide, and Tulip Cho, just speechless almost, just whispers Matty, and we cut to whoever actually answers.
I think in Nova Locus, Mora is in this another large chamber, and it's just filled with bunk beds and facilities and people. The world of Nightstar has quaked and experienced a magnetic shift of the poles, and it's killed millions, maybe billions. But these are all people who have escaped that and are here for now, gathering themselves, their people, before they can be relocated. This is the purpose of this established plan. And Mora is walking through distributing blankets to people, and they've been there for a while, so now they're conversing. And there's an older woman, almost elderly, whose grandchild, Jonathan Wilder, has been working with Mora a lot, flying Mecha and helping around the station. And the thing about Wilder is that he has this innate ability to pilot Paladin Raptor, or rather Plowshare Raptor, just like this extremely fast, insanely innovative mecha, as if he were jacked into the Geist system, but he's not. He's just got this innate knowledge about how to fly. And she says to him, to Mora, "You've created a monster." And she nods out this viewport, and you see just 3 mecha like streak by in this race. They've set up like these constructed rings outside, and they're like slaloming through the rings like it's some sort of arena. And she says, "They call it Iron Death Arena. Can you believe that?" And he says, "I think I can." He looks out, sees the end of the race, and he continues talking with her and talking with the family, and they're finding some sort of joy in the melancholy. But we cut to the hangar, and Wilder, Plowshare Wilder. I'm not sure if that's what we're doing, but I think it's kind of cool. And so like all the Paladins being retrofitted and renamed like that, and he docks it and comes over to Mora, and there's an exchange where Mora says, "You're looking faster out there." And Wilder says, "Still not fast enough. Careful. Something happened on that last run." "Oh, listen, that hedgehog gets into everything. Don't worry about that." And Wilder says, No. And he motions over, and before the cut, we see the flashing blue light. Bing, 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 bing. And that's when we'll cut the signal received by Wilder.
Any other immediate responses?
Yeah. I think Pax probably wouldn't be able to answer like immediately, because the way I imagine it being set up is that he would have handed off like whatever the locator module was. If any of you guys have seen like Avengers Endgame, where they have like the beeper hooked up to this like power module to like keep it running like infinitely so it never like dies, like the locator would be like hooked up to a device so that the internal battery like never dies out and it's just always cycling. So when like the beeper thing goes off, I imagine like somebody's like, oh shit, and they'd like send a message. You just see like this chain of people running all over the place, and eventually the message would get back to Pax, and obviously I assume Zasha would be pretty close behind him.
The one casualty of your decision, John, is no one could say, blink, blink, shit, someone call the president. Damn it. Instead, it's call the chairman, and that doesn't work. No, Zasha's always in her mech. So, bleep, bleep, she sees it. Beep, she hits the button.
But yeah, he would make his way down there and answer.
All right.
And however the location thing answers.
If any of you are in front of a view screen, those who do answer it, and this is kind of gonna this is gonna be a message that is sort of this message was probably sent a day ago, and like because of space shit can only get there now, so it's a recording, so you're gonna get it at some point. Maybe it'll either
I would say it's like from the moment that I got it and heard that noise, like Tulip would start sprinting through this like mile long hallway to get to it. And would be climbing up, and Tanner would be looking up and be like, Tulip, what's going on? And he's just like climbing frantically, and finally would get the game system and bring up whatever holographic video you were describing.
So you would see Matty, and you would see what I've described. He's wearing this big purple like overcoat. He's got some of the curls in his massive hair have kind of turned white. He's wearing these gloves, and he's standing at a podium. You would also then see come into frame, standing sort of in view, standing in frame are Calypso and Falk, who have all the changes I've described. You don't see their eyes glowing. Matty would kind of look at you as if he is staring at you. And he would say, hi guys. So it's been a while, hasn't it? I actually don't quite, 2 years, 5 months, and 7 weeks and 3 days. And that's coming from Calypso in the back. Thank you. Listen, I had hoped selfishly that I would never have to send this message. I know it was cruel of me to disappear like that, leave you with unanswered questions and bodies that needed to be buried. So I'm a body now? Says Falk in the back. Sorry, wrong choice of words. When I went into the Geist system, the power and the control that I felt there was intoxicating. It was this refuge from the noise and the violence of the world that we find ourselves in. And I pushed myself very hard to make it do the impossible. And I fear that I may have paid my price. And he takes off one of the gloves, and you see that his hand is kind of like phasing and like staticking and like translucent. And he puts his glove back on. I don't know what's happening to me. I just know that it's happening. But I also knew in that moment that I had access to great possibility. I saw Calypso and Falk there in the endless void of the endless space of the Geist system. And I didn't see people that much different than us. I saw little sparks of light and life that were snuffed out far too soon, never really given the chance to be those who could make their own decisions. Who are we to rob people of that fate? Yes, they made their mistakes. But I couldn't let them just die without trying to make up for them, without getting that second chance. The only difference between us and them is that we had a second chance. And that's where the Geist system came in. Their bodies were all but destroyed, but their paladins remained. And their consciousnesses were still there, just within the Geist system, just within my reach. And so I worked hard. And they are very much who they were before you left them. But beneath them is the technology that would enslave them, that would use them to do harm, is now giving them life and is giving them a second chance. And that Geist system is keeping them anchored to these bodies. They are greater than they were before. And I gave them a choice, and they decided to stay. Since then, I had plans to do miraculous things, to change the world, to turn our swords into plowshares. But you jumped the gun on me. I wasn't expecting that. I'm grateful for that. So my plans got delayed. I decided I couldn't just interfere with your lives. You were making such good progress. And I decided to monitor, to wait and to watch and to understand the cost of war, to truly delve into its many paths and possibilities and the way it takes and eats away at our world. We have worked very hard at creating a system to understand where it is, how it manifests, seeing that a movement of troops in one side of a star system can cause a great battle in a distant nebula. I was so encouraged by your work, both helping Infernus and helping the people of Nova Locus, those refugees. But I fear that work, it's fragile. It's It's in peril. The fighting does not stop. The threats never cease. And what we have tried to do to help ourselves and to live lives of isolated peace, they will not cut it anymore. I see one option. We must snuff war out at the source. And you see like different video panels behind him of like, might see people that you recognize that kind of look like Matty, making speeches and at fundraisers. You might see the Prince of the Neo Dominion. You might see a Terran collective general. All kinds of stuff, and an Aeon Primacy like information hub. And he says, we, the three of us, have dedicated ourselves to ending war. I reach out my hand now to all four of you to begin to end the work we started, to destroy all remnants of this vile practice so that we can finally live in peace. And you see sort of behind him now coming out of the cloak that was there the whole time, you see Paladin Vogue, which is now, though it is still that sort of curved, streamlined shape, is now outfitted with like more weapons. And he says, I will be doing this with or without you. I hope and I pray that we do it together. I have sent my coordinates. I love you. And he clicks off the screen.
As the entire playthrough concludes, Tanner is like at that last rung of the ladder, kind of just inching his head over, and Tulip has rewound the hologram recording, and it scrolls back, and that scratchy VHS sound it can be heard in this super future as it scrolls back to when Matty quite simply said, "Hi." And she reaches out and touches the hologram's shoulder and almost falls through it as the recording is now playing through the galaxy to the other paladins that would have received it as well. That's all.
Unless anyone else has more to add. No? Okay.
I don't think it's very anime to process this on screen.
On the contrary, I think it's very anime.
Anime, it would go, Mora, Pax, Matty.
We... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was trying to figure out like how like Pax would respond to this. But I think the logical thing would be that Pax would bring it up with the now president, and let him know with what was said and what's potentially about to go down. And I think obviously his uncle, being like the general of the military now, would be there, and there'd probably be a council of people. And as Pax is like going through and like regurgitating what Matty said, I think there would be a question that everyone has, which is, what do we do? And as Pax is probably the only person who in the room that knew Matty and knows what his machine is capable of and knows what the other people with him are capable of, they would probably seriously like be looking to him for like an explanation on the path that they should take. Questions like, should we work with them, or are they going to be an enemy against us? And I think Pax would kind of have to, I think where Pax would fall on this would be if Matty Jai decides to show up here and end war. I don't know if there's much that we can do to stop him. I don't know if there's any detection device that we have that can pick him up. And the things that I've seen them do, I don't know if there's any way for us to counter that. But I don't think anybody has the right to tell other people how to live their life. Right now, we're trying to fight for our own survival and our independence. And if Matty is going to come here and tell us to stop, then I think we should consider him to be an enemy. And I think that would be the end of that scene.
To set us up, to tee us up to close our last session, I imagine this playing in the cockpit and the camera is hanging on Zasha. And you see the hologram through the curved dome of this space helmet. And Matty's discussing ending war. He wants to end war, huh? And then the camera kind of swivels and looks out the cockpit window. I'm 30,000 clicks away from Omicron base, and there's a void maw tearing its way through the outside of a space station. There's an explosion, completely silent. I think he may have picked a bad time.
And I think that is a perfect ending to our campaign. So thank you, everybody.
Nice.
Oh, that was a really good session, guys. I'm like, what? This is the last one, but it's getting so good.
Low-key, it does kind of feel like we hit our stride in the last 3 episodes.
We're just getting good.
It started in the on-foot infiltration of Warwick Station for me.
This
Yeah.
was season 2 TNG.
Yeah.
We're
hitting it early.
You want to go typical,
Worf has got the
90s
better
anime,
headpiece
it's like,
on. It's getting really good.
it's like
I
the
was
last
gonna
3
say, Matt,
animes
I
are
have
like
like
old school
I have
90s
a
anime
special.
where all the plot happens.
Yeah.
Oh yes. No, I was gonna say I have a special request of that we get some credits from Mr. Click this time.
Oh, okay. I'll think of something cool. Okay, awesome. I want to go last, though.
Yeah.
That's not fair. We don't get to think about our end credits.
Black screen, white text.
Yes. Yeah. That's it.
And then we'll do it again in French.
That was amazing though, guys. Thank you for this campaign. Thank you for, I mean, we ran the full 3 almost, so it's like, thank you for 12 sessions. This is amazing.
Yeah,
Thanks for
absolutely.
all this.
And I want to give everyone a chance to do an outro. And I mean, if we want to do credit scenes, we can, or if we want to just let it lie, we can do that. I will do a credit scene if everybody wants me to. Actually, already have an idea. So let's go around the table and do our outros here, and then we'll call it. JB, you want to go first? You're up here. You're up here.
Hello, everyone. I'm JB, also known as Drop the Die online, especially Twitter, or Drop here on YouTube if you see me in the chat. I am a tabletop RPG writer, editor, layout artist, and designer, and producer. I usually forget that one. Currently, I'm working on other people's projects, holdovers from 2020 when the world collapsed in on everyone and things are going a little long. But the goal is for the end of 2021 to be full of my stuff and things I want to work on. One of them that has popped up today, which I'm probably going to lean on Matt a little bit with, is I think I am going to do a black hack version of Castlevania, tabletop RPG around creatures of the night and those who stand against them for humanity's sake. And I think that these sessions have inspired it primarily because Mecha Hack has been one of the more fun tabletop games that I've ever played, and this stream has been a really good showcase of how well this game works as a stream game, particularly because every single week I do not remember how it works, and you learn everything that you need to in like 15 minutes. So when I pull up the sheet, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember how this works. We're good. Great. I'm learning how to play Zweihander. Not as easy, right?
Not so much.
But thank you all so much for coming. I don't know, are we going to do credits? Are we doing credit scenes? Let's do credit scenes. It's fun.
Let's do it.
Let's keep them quick. So Zasha's end credit scene would be, you see this new mech with this dope poncho that I'm glad everyone loved, and the poncho swings over to the side and it lifts its hand like it's going to point a gun, and instead it has a little hedgehog, tiny little thing, barely even on the tip of one finger on its outstretched hand, and it moves it forward, and a little girl kind of plucks it off from atop a bed of tulips. And Zasha gives a thumbs up through the little cockpit window.
Amazing. Barker, go ahead, man.
My name is Barker, and I write and develop role-playing games for Absolute Tabletop and Onyx Path Publishing, and I was excited to help write Mission Manual, which is the kickstarted crowdfunded expansion to this, and I've written stuff for Werewolf the Forsaken and Mummy the Curse and other Monster the Subtitles, which it's how I got into role-playing games, so it was kind of fun to do that. But the thing that I want to show you right now is the first mass-produced copy of A Dead Man's Guide to Dragon Grin, which is dummy thick.
It's a
and
chonker.
There's currently
There's
like 1,000 copies on a boat
Yep.
by Mexico right now. We're
Yep.
tracking the boat. It's right there.
Just open
That
Google
is
Maps and
thicky.
zoom in.
Yep, exactly. I'm going to drive to Baja, California, and by the time I get there, it's going to be going through the Panama Canal or something. So, but we're really excited about that. I'm super biased, and so but don't take this with a grain of salt. This is the most beautiful role-playing game book that I own, and I have a lot of beautiful books, a lot of books that come close to this. But this is, I felt an extreme sense of pride, which is a double-edged emotion. But when I first got this, and I'm really excited for everyone else to get theirs too. And that's that. And I want Matt to do my credits scene.
Hold up.
You said.
Bully him. Bully.
You said.
All right. I
You can wait till the end if you'd like to see who else. I don't know. It's up to you, man.
okay. If everyone's gonna do a scene,
No, do it now.
Okay, so Mora's scene is Mora is
Mm-hmm. True.
overseeing the construction of this refugee ship, or the last little bit of it or whatever.
Good.
And it shows Mora like looking over the plans and like talking to like Mora's wearing a hard hat, and then it cuts and Mora's like it goes and Mora like sits down, and we see that Mora is on the girders of a skyscraper, like old-timey New York, and Mora sits down and brings out a old-timey lunchbox, like
basket,
like a tin lunchbox,
A lunch
and he opens
pail,
it up,
yeah.
and there's a hedgehog in there, and they've eaten his lunch, and he's like, "Oh, my lunch!
Why I oughta?
Why? Oh, you hedgehogs! I'm trying to build the Empire State Building. Get out of here!"
Beautiful. 10 out of 10.
There's your
Perfection.
scene. Anything else, Parker?
No.
Okay, cool. Aaron, go ahead, man.
Oh man. Well, thank you everyone for the opportunity to play this game. Thank you, Matt, for running this game and making this game. I have had so much fun playing it. I've said it before, but I will say it again. I am not a big like mecha person, or at least I wasn't before playing this. It wasn't really my thing. And so I wanted to kind of stretch myself by playing this, and like the rules of this game were so simple and easy to just kind of fall into and understand like how these machines work, and playing as somebody piloting a machine, and just really falling in love with this genre, and that's because of the passion that obviously that was put into this book, but also all the players here. And I want to thank you all for being so welcoming and so awesome with that. It's been very infectious, your love of this genre, as I come in and kind of like, do some magical bullshit all the time. But I've really enjoyed doing that. I've enjoyed complicating ththings and leaving a cliffhanger for potential future Paladin stuff. I've really enjoyed myself, and thank you so much. My name is Aaron. Please follow my Twitter at AaronDVS. You can also go to I have an Instagram called Marginalia Maps that has some new maps that I've put out that I'm kind of working on. Also, if we're talking about Mecha Hack things that we've been inspired by, I've been inspired by Mecha Hack too, and have been thinking of brewing up something called Hack County Line, which is kind of the opposite of JB's thing, which is you play as a monster in a rural American community, and how you interact with that community. And so that's something that I'll be working on. Please bug me about it so that I finally finish it and I can start running some games of it.
Aaron, that's an amazing idea.
Thank you. So that's my idea. Also, I'll be running Blue Rose over at Master the Game, Juice's channel. I'll be running that Matt Brown will be joining me for. So please come join me, see my things. My credit scene is very simple, which is like very stark difference to what they have been. I will be so what we see is rolling hills, almost like these knolls of grass. But what we realize is that it's just like this vibrant green valley on which mecha are just felled and downed and died. They're just these dead mecha, and grass and ivy and moss have grown over them. And we might recognize them as maybe some of our paladins. And atop and sort of silhouetted in the foreground of this is the shoulder or something of one of these mecha. and it's Tulip sitting there for a while looking out over this, and it's kind of ominous, right? Like we see just all these dead mecha for a second, and then we see like this the silhouette, the round silhouette of Matty kind of come into frame, sit next to the silhouette of Tulip, hand over what is obviously the silhouette of a cup of noodles, and then he kind of rests her head on her shoulder while she eats, and then we kind of see like the silhouette of a hedgehog joining them, and then as that's happening, the music's playing and the credits are rolling over the silhouette, and that's what we see.
Wonderful. Okay, John, go ahead.
I am John. You can find me at Doombot Gaming on Facebook, where I do gaming stuff. I also have a YouTube channel where I talked about RPG stuff, and just like everybody else, Mecha Hack has really relit that like passion I had for RPG stuff. And one of the things that I've it's on my bucket list of things to do is to make a system. And I've been playing around with systems, but I really like how clean and how light this system is, and how easy you can just like pick it up and just go, and how you don't have to look into the book to look for answers. It's so easy to just be like, yeah, just like do a thing, like roll this die, like because the system is so light and has so few rules, it's so easy to just attach a decision to a rule that already exists. And I've been kind of building a system towards that. I've been wanting to get my girlfriend into games, but I don't want her to start with D&D. So I've been kind of using this as inspiration to pretty much build a system for her to play that is within this vein that's like really light and cool, and she's kind of into like monster taming stuff, like Ark Survival Evolve. So the system is kind of built around taming monsters and kind of the coexistence of like the things you normally kill, and like different ways to utilize that. I've play tested it once so far, which is more than I've done with other systems. So maybe I'll finish it. But yeah, other than that, like it has been such an honor to play with you guys. Honestly, the caliber of players in this is like mind-boggling. I always feel so insecure sitting with you guys because you guys are like such amazing players. Matt, you are an amazing GM. It's always blown. Like this is like I played with you a few times, and every time it's just like, man, I am so like you always are like, man, I think I'm kind of a good GM until you see a good GM, and then you're like, damn. So it has been such an honor and a privilege to play with you guys. But yeah, I don't have like an amazing after credit scene for that. Like honestly, I don't know how to like send him off with something funny. So I will do it. Barker did and make Matt make mine.
Okay. All right. First of all, John, likewise, right back at you. It has been an absolute pleasure having you in this campaign. Pax's credit scene is Pax is standing in his quarters, and the lighting is very dark and dramatic and very noir. Like there's these shafts of light that seem to be coming from the walls, and he's standing at this like almost like this vanity. There's this large mirror, and we see Pax open up this case and reach inside and put this mask on. But then he turns to the mirror, and we see that it's a hedgehog mask, and he's wearing like a Sonic the Hedgehog mask. That's Pax's scene. All right, Matt, go ahead.
I'm gonna give you the torch as well, just so you know. You're like, what? I didn't agree to all of this nonsense, but you're doing an awesome job. Yeah, I'd like to say that your game has been fantastic. My time with these players has been fantastic. I got to do a little bit of writing work on the mission manual. Just thank you for the inclusion of me in that process. That was great. I love this Mecha Hack game, and I love that AbTab renewed what was a fading love for the hobby. So I feel rejuvenated by the wonderful community and all of the games that it provides, and also places for people to, find experiences like this, which is kind of a niche thing. We all know we have home games that go one way or the other, but sometimes you find a little bit of magic in this online space, and I'm really grateful for that, and will always be. So if you are new to gaming and you want to get started and you want to just meet some cool people who are rad and inclusive and make a lot of products and support each other making a lot of products, go find Absolute Tabletop. It's a good family for sure.
Okay, Tulip scene. Tulip is on Nova Locus at this like salon, and Janice is cutting her hair, and she has like one of those. Have you ever got like your hair dyed and you have to like sit there with like the little cap on under the heater? So you're like under there with the heater, and Janice comes over and lifts up the heater and like wheels you over to the mirror, and he goes, "Ready?" And Tulip goes, "Ready." And Janice whips off the thing, and you've got ramen hair. You have like the curly ramen noodles for hair. And you go, "I love it." And Janice goes, "Do you love it?" And you go, "I love it." And that's
a full
Tulip
Justin
scene.
Timberlake.
Yeah. Just, but like draping down, like they're like cooked ramen noodles. Okay. What? Go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna say, and then like passive segue into like super raucous, joyous music as like all of the cast are dancing on a noodle that's like moving through a cup.
And there's a kaiju at the other end, like going, hump,
of
hump,
course,
hump, eating
of course.
the noodle, and you're all like running away from it, but it's cute and fun.
Yes, chibi our way out.
Yes, absolutely. So before I do a little like mid after credits scene here, I just want to say that this campaign has been an absolute joy to run. It has been a bit of an anchor for me in these, as everyone is so prone to saying, these uncertain times. It has been really nice to have this every other Monday to look forward to, and this group of players is just amazing, and everyone showed up every session just ready to play, and I had such a good time running this game. And I can honestly say that like this is the kind of campaign that I was like imagining, like fantasizing myself running when I was writing the Mecha Hack. So it's a real pleasure to be able to have run this and actually like finish a campaign of it. So thank you for that. One thing I want to say before we end it here is Mecha Hack Mission Manual is likely coming out this week. I'm getting very close to finishing it. We got all of the art from Hank last week. It all looks dope. The writing is done. The editing is done. I just have to finish laying this thing out, but I'm hoping to get it to backers by Friday. That's my hope. That's my dream.
Currently, Matt's racing a boat that's going through the Panama Canal.
Yeah,
There's
like,
just
come on, you son of a bitch.
competition.
Yeah. So if you're a backer of ours, look forward to that, and you can also pledge late, and you'll get the PDF as well. So, I want to close things on an after credits scene, and this is going to be more of like a less of an anime after credits scene and more of like a Marvel after credits scene. We see Matty Jai's message. And he's saying, I love you. Goodbye. And the message ends, fizzles out, and this hologram dissipates. And we find ourselves in the neon-lit surgical white bridge of an Aeonic Primacy ship. Watching this video, a person sits in the command chair. Their skin is translucent to the point where you can see the cybernetics enhancing their body. You can see the glow of their veins. Their eyes glow this subtle violet color. Their body is completely devoid of hair. Their face is expressionless as they contemplate what they just saw. A voice from behind them says, Hierophant, what do you advise? He says, lock onto the coordinates of that message. I want to meet this Matty Jai. And that is where we will end Paladins. Thank you, everyone. I have heavy arms. My shoulders open up. Missiles come out. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been such a blast. I'm taking a little break from dungeon mastering, from game mastering, but I'm going to be playing in a bunch of games, so you'll see me all over the place, and I'll still be doing bullshit streams on this channel, so you can definitely tune in for those. I won't keep you any longer. Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Happy gaming, all. And I was going to say we'll see you next time, but... Well, we will see you next time.
Season 2.
We will see you next time, because I would love to do a season 2 at some point. We'll see you next time.
Woohoo!
Bye, everybody. Woo! Yeehaw! Yeehaw!